All right, welcome everybody. Congratulations, you've made it to week 4. Hope everybody has been enjoying their class. I know I really enjoy having everybody here and being able to do the go-to trainings. So thanks everybody for showing up live. I know it's a chunk of your day. It's a lot more fun for me when there's people in here. So thanks everybody for showing up. Yeah. I'm going to get into it. Like the slide says, we're going to be talking a little bit about career research. Yep, if you have to leave, that's fine. You can just watch the rest of it in the archive. I'll have this up as soon as we get done here. I go and I convert it and I post the link, and it'll show up. So you'll all be able to go and check that out. But yeah, if you're here, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. We're going to be talking about career research and balancing work and play for the first half of this, and then we're going to be talking a little bit about creativity and working through blocks in the second half. So I want to just kind of, right out of the gate, we're going to talk about core values, and I want everyone to kind of think about these. You don't have to jump into it right now, but I want you to think about, while we're going through the next few slides and video, what are your core values? So the values that are at your core, that really drive you, that the things that that run your life, those type of things. You don't have to type them in. You don't have to say them right now. But kind of if you want to keep a little Word doc open, write that down, or you have a piece of paper, just kind of start thinking, and as they come to you, just write them down and keep like a little running tally of like, yeah, these are the things that that drive me, that get me moving through the day, that are really the most important aspects of my life and my core values. Some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be exploring the why. So why we do everything we do, kind of what that means, what that looks like, what that is for each of us. We're also going to look at some companies that are fun, playful, companies that are having a good time, that are really, their employees are enjoying what they're doing. Those companies are profitable and doing well as a result of, tailoring their workspaces to, having a playful environment, and seeing how that works out for them. We're also going to look at peak performance time. It is exactly what it sounds like it is. When do we get the most done? Are we buzzing around after the first cup of coffee, or are we dragging ourselves out of bed at the crack of noon? And it may change at different points in life. So, but right, we're going to be talking about when your peak performance time is as an individual thing, and there's not a right time or right answer. So don't worry. We've been going through it all month. Work, play, fit, push. How that incorporated into your week to week, really can drive you. So yeah, we're going to talk about those things, and some of the week 4 stuff, if anyone has questions about that. So we'll keep on going. The golden circle. This is it's a pretty popular thing. I'm sure that some of you have seen this already in the week 4 readings, or some of the videos. You may or may not have, but right, what it all boils down to is why. Why is at the center of what we do. After that, we're looking at how we do what we do, and after that, what is it that we do? What are we doing? I wish I was as eloquent as some other speakers. As we go through, I know it's Simon Sinek. He's the one who really he's the one who talks about that at length. I have a snippet from one of his videos. So if you all will jump into the materials section and you click on the link that says Golden Circle, We're going to watch that video. I'm going to mute myself, and I'll be back after that video plays. So enjoy it, and keep thinking about your core values while that's going on. Hey everybody, I think we're all coming back from that right about now. If you are, awesome. If you're not, if you still have a minute, that's cool. Finish it out. Go with it. But what did you all think? I know there's not a ton of people in the room, but yeah, I'm definitely curious to know. What did everybody think about starting with why? If anyone wants to actually just talk and not type, I can unmute you. Just raise your hand. There's a little button to raise your hand. It looks like a little hand. If you click on it, I'm happy to call on people. If you feel like typing, though, don't let me stop you. But what did you all think about starting with why and the stuff that Simon Sinek talks about there? Anybody? I'm confident as soon as I start to move on in conversation that we'll come back to it. But yeah, no. In any case, I really like Simon Sinek. I think that the things that he says in that are pretty enlightening. It's interesting to think about companies. It's about so much of it is being connected. We want to be connected with the companies. We want to do business with companies that we feel good about doing business with. You look at, how, news reports come out, and it's a company, is treating people unethically, or isn't sourcing their products in ethical ways. And there's just an uproar about it. People really want to do business with other companies that are, that are, one, good to their employees, and two, good to the world around them. Because people want connectedness in the business sense and in a lot of other senses. So, that's definitely something that is likely to be a theme throughout your careers. Maybe the way that you market yourselves to other companies or to to your clients at the end of the day. So right, you can't fake personality, passion, or purpose, and that's Richard Branson, from Virgin. So it's kind of a big name there. You look at somebody like Richard Branson, and people want to know that that you're a passionate person, that you have a personality, you're purpose driven. They want to see that in you. They want to do business with a person who who's really on top of and on board and excited about the work that they're doing. I'm sure that at different points you maybe have had an instructor or a group that you had to work with, or someone who maybe you just thought, hey, I don't think that these people are quite into this work that we're doing. They're not into the topic. I just don't think that they're as invested in this as I am. And you see that and you feel it, and the energy's there. I think people really notice that. Has anyone had that? Have you worked with a group and you're just like, okay, I'm clearly the one who's most interested, most on top of this, and right, everyone else is just kind of there, just kind of floating around, and you feel it, and it shows in your work you're doing. Anybody? Yeses or nos? Yeah. Okay. Right. Truck. Yeah. Definitely. You've been there before. It's no fun. It's no fun at all. I I teach this course month in and month out, and I really I like to switch things around. I like to focus on different areas as I go through it, because I don't want to get stale. Because I know if I'm bored with what I'm teaching, you guys are going to be bored listening to me. So it's one of those things that people can tell when you're not genuine, and they tend not to. No one wants to gravitate towards someone with like, I know this person's not genuine. This isn't what they're not enjoying what they're doing. I can't imagine I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing if I'm kind of in suit with them. So keep that in mind as you move through your careers. Doing what you love is amazing. When you're passionate about it, when you're enjoying it, when you're happy. You're not going to be happy all the time. There's no, maybe you will. I hope that you will. But there's parts of your of any career, and people are like, okay, this is my favorite part. But hopefully at least the front facing side of your careers will really be things that you're on board with and you really like what you're doing. Okay, so I was talking to you a little bit at the beginning, saying what are your core values. Like I said, um, knowing our core leads us to our careers. So anyone feel free, jump in if you want. What are your core values? And I'm going to go down just because there's right here, there's the next part of it. Some of these things are, if you had other things that were core values, feel free to jump in. If you want to talk about them more at length, you can always raise your hand and I'll call on you and unmute you. We can go through it, or you can jump into the chat box if you want. What are some of your core values? What are the things that drive you every day? Anybody? I'll talk a little bit about mine while you all, I'm sure, are typing frantically. What's really important to me is integrity. For me, that's everything from, showing up when I say I'm going to show up to, to really being as genuine and as authentic as I can be about, what I'm doing day to day. I realize that a lot of times, people will ask how you are, and the polite response is to say I'm fine. And sometimes, I just say, hey, you know what? I'm alive, but I'm not, I'm not great. I'm not fantastic. Things aren't, always fine. And that's not for every interaction I have, but there's certain people, who I really want to have some integrity with, where I can be real with them, and I hope that they can be real with me. That's what I want. I want that with, with my peers who I interact with my family. So, that's one of the ones for me. Sandra, looks like, said, make every day an adventure, have humor, create fun. Absolutely. Definitely, creativity and adventure are huge things. That's awesome. So again, for me, integrity, authenticity, those are really important things. I think justice is kind of one of the other things. It's funny. I was talking with one of my peers just before I got here, and we were talking Harry Potter, and if you're into Harry Potter, awesome. I'm glad. Me too. And if you're not, you have to just bear with me for a moment. But we're talking about, houses, Hogwarts houses. And I'm a Hufflepuff. And people make fun of the Hufflepuffs, but it's really interesting. You kind of like, you again, it's kind of core value stuff. Christopher says, family, truth, recognition. Family keeps me going. When I think I'm done, they say, no, you can do it. Just keep trying. Awesome. Yeah, truth. You hate when people lie. I definitely don't like when people lie. And recognition. You want to be known for what you do and not have a boss take it for their own. Yeah, and Slytherin, hey, you know what? You're ambitious. That's great. It's funny that you said something about recognition. I was talking today about something and I had an idea for how I thought some work could be divided amongst people, and and I said, oh, hey, I like here's this idea I have, and somebody was like, that's a really good idea, and they're like, yeah, I'll send it up the chain of command, and I'll make sure to give you credit for it. And I was thinking at the end of the day, for me, I don't even care about having my name attached to it, and it's not like I'm, I would rather have again some what I saw as like a not that it was an injustice or anything, but just issue like a fairness. I wanted everyone to be treated well in this division of labor with the team I'm on. So yeah, everyone has their own things. Like everyone has what's important to them. And at the end of the day, there's not like a right or wrong core value, but knowing what your core is, knowing what's important to you, it's really it's gonna drive you. It's gonna keep you, kind of on the path, even when, when maybe, you're not sure what's going on, or you're not sure how to relate to people. Appreciation and loyalty. And Tosh says, yeah, you want to appreciate others and be appreciated yourself. Those are really big things. And loyalty, right? You know, that's one of those things that, career wise, I think a lot of people, in the olden days, people would stay with a company for 40 years or however, and that type of, loyalty within companies is not quite what it used to be. It seems like it's starting to be rebuilt, especially, like from tech out. I know tech is doing a lot to retain employees and to keep them happy and to keep their employees loyal. But right, knowing what's important to you at your core will serve you later on, because you can say, hey, here's some things that maybe I'm not comfortable with, or things that I'm not willing to do. Maybe your company will say, hey, we want you to be on the road all the time, and that won't give you time for your friends or your family, and you know that your friends and your family are what's important. So right, I'd encourage everybody to just take some time, if you haven't, and think about, what are your core values, what matters to you, how do you want that to manifest in your work life and in your school life. Is it for I'll tell everyone right now, things like academic integrity are super important while you're in school. That's one of those one of those big ones that, I know at the beginning of every class they're going to say, give you a thing about plagiarism. But that type of integrity, it really, it goes a long way. So know yourself, know what's important to you, and do your best to apply those things as you move on. So companies that are incorporating fun, we want to know, or we look at what are they doing differently, and do they hire employees who potentially wouldn't perform well in a formal setting. That's a question that Erica says, honesty and determination. Yeah, awesome. those are great core values. Thanks for chiming in. But right, so we'll look at companies who are acting a little bit differently. Companies like Zappos, Google, Pixar. And right, maybe they're hiring employees, right, who don't fit the build for, traditional workplaces. And the reason I bring that up and I stress that is because, a lot of the students here are students who maybe weren't great in the traditional education setting. I know plenty of creatives who, just didn't do great in high school. One of my best friends in the world just didn't do well in school. Like, in high school, just kind of, he got through it, but he just, he wasn't great at, I remember math and other things. He excelled at art. He was fantastic. And he went to school for automotive design. And now he works, I don't say for GM, but he's an automotive designer for them. And he does amazing stuff. And he's really respected in his industry. But the school that he went to kind of was willing to foster that and accept that, like, hey, like, we realize that the traditional education system and some of the traditional subjects might not be your forte, and that's what we try to foster here. We look at our students and we say, hey, we want to find the potential in you. We want to find what about you shines. And really, really dwell on that, because that's what's important about everyone. Is there's so much of the world that's going to say, oh, you didn't fit this standard test or whatever, and beat you down for it, or say your SAT scores weren't high enough. I'm of the belief, and I feel like most of the school runs that way, that there's enough of that in the world. We aren't really in that position where we want to say you can't, and we would rather say you can, and figure out, hey, what's your place? Where do you shine? What's the thing that you do best? And I want to foster that in all of you. So we also want to look then to the companies that are going to be willing to continue that on, and say, hey, you know what, we realize that you're alternative students in a lot of ways. Your interests are alternative. Maybe your study habits are alternative. Maybe the format of your education has been alternative, and that there's nothing wrong with that. That it's like these companies are the ones who really picked up on it and said, hey, these non-traditional people are the ones who are the creatives, who are really who are giving us our best content, our best material, and they're hunting those people down to give them jobs. So I'll ramble on this topic if I stay if I stay too long. But right, so what are these companies doing differently? I'll just come down, to Google. So their philosophy is to create the happiest, most productive workplace in the world, to push traditional workplace boundaries. They want employees to design their own workstations and scribble on the walls. From that, again, back to the materials section, and just click on inside Google. We're going to watch the video. It kind of gives you like a look at what Google's like on the inside, and we'll come back. I'll mute myself, but I'll come back after the video. All right, I think everybody probably is coming back from that short video. Um, so yeah, I mean, you look at these companies, and they're really doing a lot for their employees. They're feeding them. They're concerned about their health, their well-being. They've really expressed their interest in their employees, and it pays off for them. I'm sure that and feel free to jump in. You've probably had positions before where maybe you didn't feel fully valued. I know I've worked on teams. Not in my current position. Christopher hit the nail right on the head. If an employee is happy, they'll work better for you. That's really what it is. When I worked for a company that took care of me, even in minor ways, I was always a lot happier about the work that I was doing. I know the restaurant industry. I think not everyone, but I've had my fair share of restaurant jobs. And I remember there being companies where they would feed you, they'd give you a meal every time you came to work, so every shift you worked, you were full, and then I worked for companies that didn't feed you, or they maybe would give you a discount, but really not doing you any real favors. And what I saw with with those companies is that the companies that just fed their employees every day, their employees didn't steal food from them as often. It's one of those things. I think in food service is cost of doing business. If you have hungry employees and there's food around them, they're probably going to eat it. They're either going to be upfront about it or they're going to not be upfront about it. And you can do that one of two ways. You can be appear generous to your employees and feed them and make them all feel like they're appreciated and that you care about them not going hungry, or you can say you can kind of come from the other side and it to the employee, I'm sure it feels like, hey, you've got all this food and you won't even feed us and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You want to get the positive spin on things. Absolutely. So, these huge companies they're obviously, they've put the time and the effort into the, what it actually costs to have an unhappy employee around. And they're like, oh, wow, it's better for us to, put the money into facilities, into, feeding them, into all these other things. It's more productive for us to do those things and take care of our employees than it is to have an unhappy, unproductive employee around. So, I don't think every company is going to be, Google in terms of facilities and perks and benefits. So I don't want everyone to, get this false expectation up for every company. I mean, I think everyone, if perks and benefits are what drives you, then I'd say, find the positions that those companies need the most. Go see the jobs that Google needs to have filled, and then go educate yourself in those careers. But I don't really recommend that. I think that doing what you're passionate about is really what's important, and the rest will kind of fall into line. But right, end of the day, they realize that they want their employees to be happy. They want them to be fulfilled. I agree with you. I think a lot more companies should operate like Google. It seems like a real dream of a place to work. And I really like where I work currently. I like my job here. But right, yeah, there's definitely there's things that Google can offer, because they're a huge company. They're giant. They can do a lot of different stuff. But yeah, they want to attract and retain the best employees. So they realize that they have to give a little bit more and do a little bit more with it. So just kind of something to keep in mind. I would definitely encourage you all, though, once you get closer to the edge of your education, when you're starting to wrap it up, look at the companies you want to work for and think about that. Like, think about how much do perks matter to you? How much does the work environment matter to you? Because if it's if it's one of your top three things, then you might want to look at those companies a little bit more closely and say, hey, are you going to give me the perks I want? Well, I have, and some companies, will give you, more money or more perks or both. You just kind of want to weigh your options. So definitely, or work-life balance. That's a big one. I think that's one of the ones where um, I don't know that, right. The work-life balance is always great at all companies, and it's kind of being able to balance, your personal time from your work time. And, I know that a lot of companies, the higher up you get, you get that company phone, and then they want you to email all day, every day. They want access to you because they've done a lot for you. They pay you a lot of money. So right, just some things to think about. Zappos is another company that is really, they've gone far and they've done a lot. Again, I think it's one of those things that they want their employees to be happy. They even, they'll offer people $3,000 to leave. I think at their 90-day mark, they'll say, hey, if you don't want to be here after 90 days, you can get this check for $3,000 and you can go. Or you can stay, because they want people who are in it for the long run, people who are interested in the work that they're doing there, interested in making that a better, more effective work environment, and people who are interested in the long term. They're not just looking for quick, fast money, something like that. They're definitely doing they're doing good at business. So they're clearly onto something. It's probably something worth looking into. So feel free to check them out a little bit. They're doing doing pretty well. So tactics, that people will do. Right, Zappos will do their interviews. They want to make sure you can do the work, of course, because that's important. But they also want to see if you fit in the culture. Company culture is a huge thing. I know that's one of the big buzzwords here at Full Sail. Is the culture of the company. What do we do? I know it's tough being far away, but if you ever get the chance to come to campus, come visit everyone. Try to visit around Halloween if you can. This place, it gets pretty exciting around Halloween time. Everyone gets real dressed up. There's a lot of people. There's crazy costumes. There's big Halloween costume contests, and people really like it. But that's the personalities of the school. That's how everyone is around here. They're into I don't want to lump everyone in. I mean, I've shown my colors and said, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. There's a lot of others, but there's every TV show, every sci-fi, everything like that. There's someone dressed as almost every character at Halloween. People really get the chance to be themselves, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely, check out maybe some interviews with people who work for companies. If you're looking at, different companies you want to work for, and see what their company cultures are like, because it's really important. If you're a jeans and a t-shirt type of person, and, you're interviewing with a company that's, buttoned up and full suits every day, unless you're willing to make that change, it's definitely something to look into. Pixar is another one of the companies that we end up talking about. Innovative leaders are highly diversified. It's not about great ideas, but great teams. So that right there is a huge thing. When you value your people, that's kind of the takeaway from that. There is another video. Again, if we go, I'm clicking on the wrong things, into materials, and inside Pixar. We can go through that. I'll come back afterwards. So just bear with me. Okay. I think everybody should probably be coming back from that. If you are, cool. If you're finishing up, that's cool too. So some of the things that I think are really interesting, about a big company like Pixar. They're talking about getting people out of their offices, getting people to mingle with people that maybe they wouldn't ordinarily mix with. It's that idea that employees should be linked together. If you have everybody in their rank and file, and all the one team sits in the one team spot, and the two team sits in the two team spot, and the three team sits in the three team spot, and nobody ever moves around. You have a tendency to get stale. It gets boring for for sure. But it can get really stale. There's so much creativity is really, it flourishes when people are given new opportunities, new avenues, new ways to go about using their creative juices and getting them flowing and getting out with other people. um, there's no point in having the free thinking creatives, if you're just gonna kind of box them up and say nope, just sit there and do this one thing. The innovation is taking those people and mixing them all up and giving them new opportunities to create, new opportunities to innovate. It's definitely, it's a tactic that companies use. It's obviously it's very successful with these companies. But you heard through the video, so you get all this time. But when they come to their pushes, they said people are working 70-hour weeks. So that right there is another thing. I mentioned work-life balance earlier. I'm sure they're not working 70-hour weeks every week, but when they do their pushes, when they have big things, projects that are due, you got to think about that. If that's something that that you'd be interested in, if it's worth it to do 70 hours, to not be, if you do you have small children? I have two small children at home, so my work-life balance is really important to me right now. Because my wife and I split time watching the kids and taking care of them. So I like to be able to, I can do work in the evenings or in the mornings or other times of day. I have a flexible schedule, which I really appreciate. Because my wife is a hairdresser, so she can do her work on her schedule, and I can do work on my schedule, and we can watch our kids and take care of them, which for us is really, really, really important. So it's really just about figuring out the things that are important to you, and making sure that those are balanced. One of the things, I've talked so much about what we're looking for, what the employers are looking for. I won't say that all companies don't care, because that would not be true. But a lot of companies aren't looking for the same basic stuff. Because either the education system is such that maybe the employers don't trust it, but they're not really looking at grades and basic skills anymore. Certainly, not the SAT scores have kind of become less important, is what I'll say. I won't say they're not important, because there's still a lot of places that are looking at those. The Ivy League schools still want to see super high SAT scores. But that, again, that's not the workplace. That's the school environment. But right, companies want to know how creative are you, how much can you accomplish, what are your true assets, what are you really bringing to the table. It uses the example, if you can brainstorm all the possible uses of bubble wrap, things that are not non-traditional, non-linear thought paths. Are you able to be creative? Are you able to be creative kind of on demand? I know we were talking last week. A lot of the material talks about creativity and motivation. and using extrinsic motivators, and whether or not they work for creative tasks versus mechanical tasks. And the takeaway from that essentially is that um, an outside motivator like money or bonuses works a lot better for mechanical tasks than it does for creative tasks. And just because this information's out there doesn't mean that the companies are all using it and taking it. A lot of people, a lot of companies, especially older ones, have a way that they're set in doing business. They've been doing it the same way, and they've been successful thus far. And maybe they're behemoth companies that just are unwilling to change, or until maybe their leadership changes out. But right, a lot of the new up and comers are looking for the creative types. So definitely something to think about. What are you bringing creatively to the table? So just something to think about. I'm going to take this as a moment to take a break. We're going to come back and start talking about. We'll come back with eliminating creative blocks. So everybody take a few minutes, relax, use the restroom, get a drink, eat some food. I'll be back in, let's say, 10 minutes. So I have 2:57 right now. I will come back at 3:07. So 10 minutes from now. All right, everybody. Back from break. Hope everybody is back at their computers. Everyone here. Everyone can see my screen moving. Eliminate creative blocks. That's what we're going to be picking up on. Gotta get a couple of yeses in the chat box if people are there. Back, ready to pay attention. Maybe. Yes. Awesome. Wonderful. I just wanted to make sure. I've had times when my screen was frozen, or things have happened, or people couldn't hear me, or I forgot to unmute my microphone. All sorts of silly things that can happen. I wanted to make sure I wasn't doing any of those. So okay. So creative blocks. I'm sure everyone at some point has had a creative block. You're working on something, a project, maybe a piece of art, maybe you're writing a story, maybe you're doing some coding, and you just kind of get stuck, or you feel like you're not creative. Has everyone had that experience at some point? Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Right. It's pretty normal. Sometimes, yeah. It's stuff that at some point is and definitely Natasha. Yeah. We all run into that. Sometimes it's we're stuck on other things. Sometimes we just we're just not really feeling creative. But a lot of times, a lot of the careers that especially that you all are going into, it's not there's not always time to have creative blocks, and we want to kind of think about ways to get around them, especially when it's your job, to go in 8 to 16 hours a day and go be creative. Knowing how to overcome those are pretty important. One of the things is creative thinking tools. That is, there's a toolbox in the picture, but it's broad and expansive. Creative thinking tools kind of covers a lot of different stuff. Sometimes for people, taking a step out of your traditional creative environment and stepping into a creative environment that isn't what you were doing, or what your job is to do, or what you're what you're normally doing. So if you're an animator, and you're stuck, or you can't think of something, maybe you go and you sit and you play music for a few minutes, or you work with tools that aren't the tools you were previously working on, the tools you felt stuck with. And what it does, kind of gives your brain a little bit of respite from what you've been doing. It gives you a little bit of a break. but it starts, it starts getting the juices flowing again. You start to be able to come back and think creatively again. Does anyone have anything when they get stuck, feel like they have creative blocks, things that they've found that work really well for them? And if you want, feel free to raise your hand. I'll unmute you and you can talk, or you can jump in the chat box if you want. I'd be happy to call on anybody. Tools that you use that are good for you when you hit creative blocks, things you can do to help you get over those. I'll talk about it for me while I'm assuming someone's going to answer. I feel like when I'm really stuck creatively, I like to take walks. Sometimes if I'm stuck on something I'm working on, I'll take a lap around the office. I'll go see a couple of friends, talk to them about maybe projects that they're working on. Maybe see if there's things that they're stuck on that I can be helpful with. Being creative on something, sometimes it's just when there's no pressure, there's no pressure on me to go be creative on somebody else's team. Sandra says, pick up guitar, play ball, draw. Yeah, absolutely. All those things are good. Just right. Getting out and doing something else, being active or creative in a different way. That's really, really a great way to, kind of just take a step back from whatever it is that you're stuck on. Exercise to clear your mind and vent. That's a huge one. I know for me, I really like that. I like to go running. That gets, it gets my mind kind of frees up. Helps me not, kind of be focused on things I might be frustrated about. Talking with your dad helps. Awesome. That's a great plan. He always has a way to make me think around your problem. That's really cool. And it's awesome to have somebody who is there and it can help you write. Kind of get your thoughts out. What I found, my background is in social work, and a lot of that is there's a clinical aspect of it. So what a lot of times we need is someone to just work ideas off of, to just kind of like put our thoughts out there, say what's going on, and when we verbalize those things, we learn a lot from that, and sometimes it's just talking out a problem. We know the answers or we have the solutions, but until we can talk it out with somebody else, that other person really is just kind of a sounding board for you. They're not always doing necessary. And no, I'm not to take away from anyone. I'm sure some people are just fantastic, but I realize for me, a lot of times, if I have something I'm stuck on, I just need somebody to tell it to. If I can sit and get it all out and say, hey, here are these things, then I can weigh options with that person. Just kind of work around my options and what I want to do. It's a really useful tool. So I would definitely encourage people, find somebody, maybe a peer, or maybe a mentor in your industry who you can just kind of bounce your ideas off of, who, when you get stuck, you have someone you can go and talk to. I think that's super, super useful. In addition to, the other creative tools that you find that are useful to you when you get stuck. So create a play space. I know for a lot of people that it's play that is their reset button. I'm definitely in that category. Sometimes, I don't have it on my computer anymore, but I feel like Minesweeper, if anyone, I'm sure every Windows computer that they make, I think gets loaded with Minesweeper automatically. But, so I remember being in college, you're stuck, you're working on a paper or something like that, you're typing something up, and you just need to take a minute. Yeah, I used to play it a lot. Yeah, right. You just want something to kind of just like get your get your mind off of what you're doing currently. I know for me, the game that I like to play a lot when I kind of just want a quick just minute to like let my brain go numb is a game called 2048, which is available on computers or on phones. But it's this game where you have these squares and they have numbers on them, and I'm not going to explain it. You can figure it out. Type 2048 game into the internet and you'll figure it out if you're really interested. But it's a really simple game. It's fun. It's something to kind of, get your mind off what you're doing. Some people, like Sudoku, like number puzzles, things like that. But play is one of those things. For some people, having having a playroom is really important to them. Sometimes I know for a lot of our students, they have their gaming setups, whatever that is. Keep trying, Natasha. You'll get there eventually. But so sometimes I always think people will take big pictures of their gaming rigs when they have their computers and they've got all their monitors, and if that's your thing, you set yourself up with a place where you can do that. For me, I know a lot of my enjoyment comes out of gardening. I keep rare fruit trees, so that's a big thing for me. I have my porches set up when I need some time or I want to just be quiet for a little while. I just go sit outside on my porch with my plants. I can just kind of hang out there. I enjoy them. I take it in. And then, I can go back to doing what I'm doing. But it's nice to have a little spot in the world that's just for you, that's set aside, that you're just like, all right, this is my nice, calm, quiet place where I can go. I can get my thoughts out. I can think about, whatever I need to do for the next, hour, 2 hours, day, week. But having a place where it's your space, and if it helps you reset creatively, that's even better. So when is your peak time? That is different for everyone. And I said that at the beginning. Peak time is huge. It's important to know when you're the most productive. I've not always been a morning person. I am currently a morning person, which is great, but that has to do with having infant children. I've got 2 little boys and they're fantastic, but they get up super early. So, there's a lot of days when I'm like just hanging out at 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe doing some work or, hanging out. But, I get up in the morning, I drink my coffee. I can be real productive in the morning. When I was in college, though, I was really productive in the middle of the night. That's when my peak time was. I was most alert and I felt creative. Whether or not I actually was, I felt I could get a lot done in the middle of the night. So that's when I did a lot of my, I would write papers in the middle of the night. I would, kind of get a lot of things done. It may also have been that I just, that was the schedule that I had set up for myself. Eric says, me too, accompanied with Starbucks. Yeah, what's important is not so much when your time is, but knowing when your time is. So that way you can be productive during that time. If you know that you're productive first thing in the morning, try and get your work done first thing in the morning. If you're productive at night and your schedule and your life allows you to be up in the middle of the night working on stuff, then go ahead and do it. I know a lot of companies even offer, they'll kind of they give you flex hours. You can kind of work when you're productive, because they know they want you to be productive. They want you to do good work. It's important to them that you're getting everything done, that you're being productive. So knowing when it is for yourself is really what's important. It doesn't really matter so much when it is. Hopefully it's in a time that you're not doing other things. But yeah, know when you're productive and carve time out in those spots to make sure that you can get done what you need to get done. Again, on the same topic, you have your peak performance, time and flow, all kind of things. I know. Talked about flow earlier in the month, probably. But when you have those things, when they all line up, when you have your hours and you have the time set out, and you can get into flow states, you're going to be productive. You're going to get a lot more done. You're probably going to be a lot happier with the work while you're doing it, and then the work that's done. I know for me, if I'm, grinding away and working on something and I'm not into it, and I'm just doing it just to get it done, I might not always be super happy with my work at the end of it. I know it wasn't fun while I was doing it, and I know that a lot of times I don't do my best work, in certain, other times. So I try to be aware of, when I'm going to be most productive. I'm usually pretty productive in between, 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. Those are really the time of day when I'm, hopefully I can sit and be quiet. I'm usually pretty caffeinated at that point in the day. And I get a lot of stuff done. So I try to, keep that time set aside and make sure that, I can do a lot of my work. I try to get a lot of my grading done in those hours, or other projects I need to work on. I like to work on them early in the morning, and then kind of do other things in the afternoon. I still, I'm still at work, still have things to do. But I can set up things like this, like my go-to trainings, which, maybe are a little, calling me to use different skills. My go-to trainings are, they're the same month to month. So I know the material I'm going to talk about. It doesn't necessarily require the same creative juices to be flowing for me to go through them. So kind of figure out what works for you in your schedule, and do your best to facilitate that to make sure that you're able to perform at your best. So schedules and balance. I know everyone's been working on schedules this month. How has everyone enjoyed that? Like having a schedule, has it been helpful for you to have a schedule? Is it like I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, I had a schedule already. So it was just a second schedule. Is this the first time anyone's like had to, have like a weekly schedule set up for them, or kind of known what they're going to be expecting to do? The schedule helps. I just need to get more used to it. Yeah. And Tosh says it helped a lot. Yes. Very organized and clarified for me. Awesome. That's so good to hear. That really, it's heartening to know that, yeah. And if you've never had one, totally, I know that college for me was one of the times when I first had to really start implementing a schedule, because I had a lot of demands of my time. I was working, I was in school, I had, my relationships, all sorts of other things that I was trying to maintain. Yeah, it's hard. If you've had trouble keeping one before, it's one of those things that, there's, school is probably for most people the main thing that they're doing right now. I know there's a lot of people who probably work full time and have families, and for them I'm sure the schedule is even more important, because it's like you have all your things you have to do in the week that are just regular getting by in life stuff, and then you have school on top of that. I know for me, when I was in school, especially when I was in statistics, that was one of the hardest classes for me. I had to schedule out time every day to do statistics homework just so I could pass the class, because it was really hard for me. It wasn't a class I was just naturally great at, and it took me studying and working extra hard. And right, having a schedule, knowing when I was going to do it every day, knowing that it was something I had to do. It gave me something to be accountable to. It gave me something that it didn't sneak up on me. So yeah, I think that if keeping a schedule is helpful for you, if it's not, I think doing it is a really good practice. It kind of gives you an idea of what you can expect for the week. It's way easier to make plans that way, because someone can say, hey, what are you doing this week? Or, do you want to go hang out this day? You can say, oh, I actually have a test I have to study for, that I was planning on doing then. And, the rest of my schedule doesn't really allow for something. So, it makes it a lot easier to do stuff. Erica bought a dry erase board calendar just for this course. That's awesome. You keep using it. It's one of those things that it really, having a schedule, knowing what to expect, day to day, week to week, month to month, is awesome. I really enjoy it. I don't I don't mean to kind of drive the issue into the ground, but I really like knowing what's going on. I find that if I don't write my schedule down, or my wife and I will talk, and I'll say, well, what was that thing again? What is your schedule for this day? Because we don't have, she doesn't have the same schedule every day. I end up asking her a lot of times. So I like having our schedule, up on our fridge, and I know I know what's going on. I know when we have doctor's appointments for our kids. I know when we have other things going on. So yeah, big advocate for schedules. I think it's super important. The Wheel of Life. I think everyone has done this at least once. I know this week we'll be doing a second one. I hope that this has been enlightening. Some people like this activity more than others. It is really interesting to kind of get mentally, like, what does my life look like? How am I spending my time? Am I spending my time wisely? And the question isn't, am I spending my time wisely? But that's the question that I ended up asking myself. And if I kind of examine, am I spending my time? Am I doing well with my, the way that is my time being spent the same way I say my priorities are organized? We're doing another one, this week, so you'll be able to compare it with your first Wheel of Life. So, definitely something to think about. If you've made changes this week, if you haven't made changes, what are some changes that you want to make for the future moving forward? It's really a cool tool, so I like using it. So time batching, it gets covered in the reading. I don't want to go too far in depth with it, but essentially, it's one of those life hacks that people use where if you can work in batches, you can get a whole bunch of stuff done. I think about it in terms of you could go to the grocery store every day and buy the groceries that you need to get you through that day, but very few people go grocery shopping that way. I did, I'm sure, when I was in college, just buy what I was going to make for dinner that night. But now that I have a little bit more organization in my life, my wife or I can go to the store with a list of ingredients that we want for all the food that we want throughout the week, and we can go, buy a week's worth of groceries, which is essentially, time batching. There's certain things that have to be done every day. If you could just take 7 showers on Sunday and not have to shower all week, that'd be fantastic, but it does not work that way. I can't advise anyone to do that. But there are things that you can. So when you can find ways to batch activities, do it. Sometimes it may be, it's a little bit boring. I know I have friends, it seems, who are more health conscious, who make all their meals one day of the week. They go and they set out a bunch of, containers, buy all the things they need, cook the food, set it all up. And it saves them time, and it's easier for them to stay on track with their dietary wants or needs. And it saves them a lot of time, day to day. They don't have to keep making food. So, figure out what works for you. But yeah, time batching is pretty awesome. The work, play, fit, push. You've all been dealing with this every day, every week, and every day if you're checking it. It's important to keep those categories there. Obviously everyone has work, at least schoolwork, if not regular work on top of that. Play, I think, is really important. I think the class has demonstrated why it's important to do, why it's important to maintain, your creative balance. I think it's important to make time for it every day. Some people need that written out on a calendar. Some people won't just take breaks from whatever they're doing every day. But I think it's important. Fit is one of those ones that, I said earlier, I like to run, I like to go to the gym. Those things are really good for me just mentally. When I am not able to exercise regularly, I have less energy. I can find myself being, kind of like on the more depressed side. So, for me, it's really, I feel much better when I get regular exercise. So I try to do it. I'm not going to say I'm not a health guru. I'm not, a fitness expert. But I found that it works for me. And so I'm going to keep doing it. Find out what works for you. If your fit goals are more related to, doing less stuff that's bad for you, maybe, or maybe, eating food that's better for you. Whatever it is, kind of thinking about your, what kind of, health related decisions you can make on a day-to-day basis are pretty important. And then it's important to push yourself. Life's going to ask you to do a certain amount of stuff, and you can do the bare minimum in life. You'll get by. That's how it goes. You can always just do the bare minimum and get by. But if you really want to flourish, and I can't imagine too many people came here to do the bare minimum and get by. You did it because you want to be a pro, you want to be an expert, you want to hopefully be a rock star in your industry. That's what my hope is for each of you, and that you're pushing yourselves every day to kind of step up and do the next big thing in your industry, in your career. So I think they're really important, and that's why we drill them into you so hard this month. So keep those in mind moving forward. Make a play plan. It's just that simple. Think about what you're going to do. Kind of make social plans with your friends. Plan to have a good time. Multitasking. Sorry to blow by things. I just know we have a lot of content to cover, and there's only about 30 minutes left. Multitasking is one of those things. I have a short video that we're going to play. I'll play the video and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. It's in the materials section again. It's the one that says multitasking. I'll be back after it's done. All right, so it's that's the piece on multitasking. I think that, as you go through some of the readings, you get a different idea um, about how it actually works. Um, but right, it's different. The what we think we're doing when we multitask versus what's really happening. We like to think we're all superheroes and we can do a million things at once. But right, at the end of the day, the information is all kind of getting jammed in at once and ends up in any kind of a bottlenecking situation, which ends to lower IQ and diminish proficiency in an area. Um, I wish I could say, I can, listen to, uh, an audiobook and, read a paper at the same time and fully, comprehend both of them. But, it just doesn't work that way. I know a lot of people even just listening to music is while they're trying to read is really difficult. I know when I was a kid, if I listened to music while I was writing, I would end up writing song lyrics, and not intentionally, but I just my brain just couldn't do both of them at the same time. So I think it's important to choose the things that we want to work on, the things that are important, pick those things, work on them. Um, Music actually helps you focus by eliminating background noises. That right there, totally, sure, that's awesome. I think that for a lot of people, music is really good. I really like instrumental music. If I'm really trying to focus in on something, explosions in the sky type thing, where it's calm, it's kind of ambient. But yeah, though it definitely it can be very helpful. I think everyone has probably a slightly different, threshold of what works for them and what doesn't. But kind of if you think that even if you don't think it's not working well for you, give it a try. It mentions the 20-minute rule. So just kind of working on, if you have a lot of things to do, giving yourself 20-minute blocks. Batch things out in 20-minute blocks. Where if you have two assignments you need to work on and you feel the need to go back and forth between the two of them, give yourself a solid 20 minutes on each one. That way, at least hey, I've given myself, this much time. I can dedicate this amount of time to it, or hour blocks, or whatever time frame actually works for you. But if you are cycling too quickly, you're not going to get a lot done on either one. So, definitely something to think about moving forward as you go through things. It'd be great if, and it's not to say certain things, certain you can accomplish multiple goals at once. You can run several errands at the same time. I don't think that's what I mean by it, but really trying to fully give yourself to two separate things, separate fully consuming projects. It can keep you from accomplishing what you end up wanting to do in the first place. So mindfulness, it's another short video I want you guys to watch. You ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to to do that. But yeah, if you want to just jump in, again, in the materials section, there's a video labeled mindfulness. We're going to watch that and we're going to come back and talk about it. So I'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, so coming back from that, I really like the mindfulness video because it's interesting. It gives us, some self-awareness. Unicorns are rainbows. Yeah, no, it's a super fun video. I like that it kind of presents some stuff, but maybe I feel like at least when I see like a cartoon or an illustration of an idea that maybe I would maybe be closed off to, or at least not as open to. I'd say mindfulness. That sounds like something I wouldn't be interested in. Maybe is what I might think. And when I can see it illustrated in a different way, it gives me a different way of looking at it. But it's interesting because it's all about being in the moment, giving yourself some self-reflection statements, appreciating the now. So, and kind of being aware of your surroundings, your feelings, your mood. It's really important to know those things. To be aware of how you're feeling in the moment. I think that's one of those things that far too often we're in a situation, it maybe is overwhelming for one reason or another, or we don't like how it's going, and maybe we have an outburst or something. A lot of times it's because maybe we're not really aware of what's going on, or we're not we know something's happening, we know we don't like it, but we're not willing to stop and say, hey, this situation is getting out of control, or I'm not happy with what it looks like it's going to be. How do I feel about that? How does that affect my mood? Knowing those things kind of gives us the opportunity to say, maybe this is a situation, where I should, just kind of sit quietly, as opposed to, blurt out the first thing that comes to my mind, because that might not be appropriate. I say that and I giggle because, as a young person, I'm still young, so don't get me wrong. I wasn't always good, and I'm, trust me, not always good now at not saying the first thing that pops into my head. Sometimes I say, hey, I'm outraged. I wish I would say, hey, I'm outraged, because that's never the phrasing I use. But right, when I'm outraged about something, I don't always have the words to express that. So kind of being aware of what I'm feeling is really important. It goes into the mindfulness leads really really nicely into the anatomy of an emotion, and what that looks like. So generally when we have something happens, an activating event, like the guy was in the video was saying, somebody cuts you off in traffic. We then have a belief about that, or we tend to. Sometimes our belief is, that person wasn't looking where they were going, and that's as much as I gave it to them, or as much thought as I put to it. And that hopefully is, we're giving the person the benefit of the doubt. But if we're not in a good headspace, maybe we say, that person cut me off, and they did it because they're trying to ruin my day, or because they're a jerk, or because they're not considerate. It's always funny to listen to the commentary when you're a passenger in someone's car. But then we take our belief about that, and then there's consequences to that. There's definitely sometimes I feel like there's ever a time my language needs to be cleaned up, it's while I'm driving. It really is. My wife and I both, we get behind the wheel, and our language is just like, wow. It's you get frustrated with somebody, or you think somebody's out to get you. But right, our beliefs didn't have consequences. Is we get frustrated and we're mad and we're fumed about this thing. Sometimes if it's not something something like that, it can have real consequences. If we have this, let's say, it was, and I hate to jump events, but let's say, we were supposed to go meet up with one of our friends, for coffee, and our friend, didn't show up. And we get a belief about that. Maybe we think, hey, man, my friend doesn't respect me, or they don't respect my time, or they don't want to be my friend. And then there's a consequence to that. Maybe I am unfriendly to that person next time I see them. Maybe I say, hey, what's up? You don't respect me or my time. What's your deal? That's the consequences of my belief. And if I choose to act on the belief, and I act on those consequences, I could end up hurting my friendship. From there, there's a dispute. That's really the best thing we can do for ourselves. Because so often, we we get something in our head. I think, oh man, my friend, they ditched me. And then if I really stop, or sometimes I'll actually have to just ask them, like, hey, what happened? And they'll say, oh, I fell asleep and I forgot to set a phone alarm. So I didn't wake up. I didn't mean to ditch you. I didn't mean to disrespect you or waste your time. But this, or I had an emergency come up, and then you end up feeling like a real jerk. Like, oh yeah, here's me sitting, drinking coffee by myself, and when you had something real going on. And then the energization. Outcome after we dispute our rational beliefs. So we can let our beliefs about situations really, really change the way that we view the world, that we view a person, that we view a situation. So I'd encourage everyone to take a few minutes next time you find yourself frustrated with a situation. Maybe next time, you get a grade you don't like, or, have something happen, or a teammate doesn't show up for something, and just stop and just say, what am I jumping to? What's the conclusion that I've jumped to? And then challenge it and just say, is that really the case? Is that really, what happened? And be willing to kind of go with that. Be willing to dispute the belief that we may have about what happened in a situation, and see where that goes. See what that opens up. Sometimes the situation is just like what I thought was exactly what happened. This person's a jerk, and I'm not going to be friends with them anymore. And hey, you know what? Sometimes that's sometimes you got to cut out of your life, or you don't want to have as big of a role in your life. But I found that it's energizing and it's really refreshing when I can give someone the benefit of the doubt. And I don't have to get burned up emotionally, and I don't have to let them take up space in my mind, being angry with them about something. So it's an interesting practice. I definitely, encourage people to kind of think about that, think about the ideas that we jump to in the middle of stuff. So just something to think about. So, right, connecting concepts, motion, multitasking, mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness helps us avoid multitasking. Our awareness of emotion, bad habits, but it takes practice. That's kind of one of those things. There's a couple of websites there you can check out if you want later on. Feel free to. But right, all of this stuff, all of the what I would put under the category of mental and emotional well-being, is all stuff that takes a lot of practice. It takes work. It takes a concerned effort to kind of push yourself to go into those things. The world doesn't always relate to you and say, hey, are you emotionally well today at the beginning of the day. But it's definitely something to look at. Says in the privacy of your car, you're allowed to get mad in your privacy, but when it affects other drivers, then cross the line. Yeah, absolutely. Just the same. With most things, is I can be upset about something, and it's totally normal to get upset, to get frustrated about situations, but it's where I go with it next. It's the next step, is if somebody if somebody cuts me off in traffic, I can be mad. I can shout stuff in my car, but am I going to carry that with me for the rest of the day? If I'm still thinking about that, after 5 or 10 minutes, maybe I want to kind of like look back and say, is it really worth my time to be thinking about this person who they're off, they're on to the next thing in life. I honked at them and that was as much as they thought about it. But if I'm holding on to it, that's when I need to say, hey, is it worth it for my emotional well-being to hold on to these things? And if it's not worth it to you, then you kind of want to check out maybe some other practices. With the challenging those ideas we have, and seeing what happens. So, does anyone have any questions? Most of the time they are on doctor's medications, blind, can't hear right, or youth drug. There's all sorts of things that could be going on. I think it's different from place to place. I live in Orlando, so we've got a wide range of people. We always have tourists coming to town, so people will say that tourists can't drive, or we have a lot of elderly people, so people say the elderly can't drive. We have a lot of young people, and people say the young people, and I wish that I don't wish there's really we can make generalizations about whatever's going on, but right, you never know what's going on. Hashim, that's a great point. That's what my mom always told me that when I was a kid, and I'd get mad at somebody. I'd say, oh, this person, they did this, or they were a jerk to me, or whatever, and I would say, hey, you know what, they may have done this, but you never know what's going on in their life, so don't jump to conclusions. So yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to kind of give everybody a fair shake, day to day. Sometimes, and if somebody was maybe a jerk to you yesterday, see if they're going to be, if their attitude's changed the next time you see them. Because right, you never know what was happening to them that day. Does anyone have any questions about the material, about the class, about any of your remaining assignments, anything like that? If you do, you can raise your hands and I can answer them. You can feel free to put them in the chat box. If you don't have any questions, you're free to go. Have a great rest of your day. If you don't have questions, just enjoy everything. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, evening, depending. I don't know where everyone is. Yeah, you all enjoy yourselves. We'll see you, back on the online platform. Yep, everyone can kind of close out. Yeah. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate everyone showing up. So, you all have a good evening. I'll see you next time. Or hopefully you won't be back in the class because you'll have passed and we won't see you. But if we do, thanks for being here anyway. Yeah, thanks for being here.